What's up, guys? It's Jimmy Jackson here, Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'm making a quick video on how to analyze a property in 5 minutes. So let's get it started really quick. I try to make these videos short, even though sometimes I try, but I end up rambling. So let's start right here with the interest rates. So today's interest rates, 30-year fixed, 6.37, 15-year, 5.89, 30-year jumbo, 6.27. 30-year FHA, 6.05, 30-year VA, 6.08. Once again, like I always say, FHA, VA, those are government lenders. So you'll have a PMI, private mortgage insurance, so you'll be paying more. That's just pretty much the lenders covering their own behinds. And I always try to tell people, make sure if you get one of those loans, know your fees and know that your selection on your houses. Um, you have to make sure you find homes that are move-in ready. I've had people who are trying to find investment properties with FHA. You got to tell them like, no, if you're getting an FHA, it's a Federal Housing Administration. They're the ones who are helping you out. They're not going to say, hey, here's money for you to go, get a broken car. If we're going to give you money, you have to make sure the car's drivable. So if you're going to get if you're going to get a home through the lending, through the federal government, they're going to be like, hey, the home has to be move-in ready. It's not just a home that we can give you so you can go buy a house and then fix it and then fix it and flip it and then sell it when you might try to fix it and something could happen along the way and you could lose the property. You know what I mean? Or you might not even know how to do like how to fix everything, but you think you do. Or you're not even a certified contractor, but you think you can fix the whole property. So they have higher standards. So it's going to be, you see the lower interest rates, but you're going to be having to meet higher standards for the property, and you're going to pay more because they're covering their behinds again, because they're usually, not always, but a lot of times, they're also helping people with lower credit scores. That's for the FHA. So um, they're taking higher risks. So that's just a quick summary. So let me scroll down through here, see if there's anything worth checking out. the mortgage calculator. All right. Let's say that, let me zoom in on this mortgage calculator. Let's see. All right. Let's say that we were going to purchase that property for 200,000 and we put down 45,000 at a 6.31 interest rate for 30 years. As you can see, our monthly plan for the mortgage would be $960. Add in the property tax, add in the home insurance, and other costs. Other costs like utilities, and yeah, pretty much utilities. I would have to say, because you have your taxes and you have your insurance right there. So all you have left is your utilities, and insurance, PMI, and you didn't do an FHA. You just did a 30-year. Here's your amortization schedule. So, you would know when your payments are, how much money is going towards your interest and how many is going towards your principal and your ending balance that you owe on the property throughout the entire 30 years. Okay. So let's say, hey, we want to get this property. We decided that we were going to do it. This will give us a little bit of a layout on an estimate, let's say. So let's jump over to this tab. Let's see. The price was 200,000. So for 200,000, we would want to make sure that the 1% is at least $2,000 a month. There's something else called the 50% rule. So assume that 50% of all your rental income will go towards property expenses, taxes, insurance, maintenance. If you're not, doing it yourself, vacancy, property management, if you're not being your own property manager, and utilities. If you're paying for the utilities, this does not include the mortgage. So just use that as an idea. I mean, this property isn't too bad. So, I mean, it's not terrible, but yeah. So let's pretend that we did decide to do that on this property. So let's start with a bad deal first. Well, what would be considered a bad deal after we just checked that out and seen how that worked? Man, this keeps on zooming out. Okay. A bad deal. If you purchase the property for $200 and you rent it out for $1,200, okay, so your expenses would already be $600. So you want to do the 50% rule. So your mortgage being $960 a month, add that in with your monthly expenses, which we got from the 50% rule, you would actually be losing $360 because you're only renting it out for $1,200. So if you look at the math, it's the cash flow, which is 1,200 minus the 50% minus the mortgage, which if you look right here, this is where I'm doing this at. Cash flow minus the rent minus the expenses minus the mortgage equals negative 360 cash flow. So your cap rate, what you want to do is take the 1200, subtract it by the 600, because that is for your expenses, times that by 12, which is yearly, and divide it by the overall price of the property, which is 3.6. And then you want to look at your cash on cash return. So it's negative $360. So that's already bad. Times 12, which is yearly, divided by $40,000. So your cash flow is negative 0.8%. Let me give you a quick layout of what your cash on cash flow is. Your cash on cash flow, this measures how much cash you earn every year compared to how much cash you invested up front. So you're losing money yearly with a purchase like that. All right, let's check out a good deal. All right. If you're curious about the numbers, so yeah, those are just small things that, well, not small things, but those are actually important things that you should pay attention to. So as soon as you're done putting the numbers together, then I would, do a double check, kind of like an inspection before you buy a home. If you're purchasing a home, you know, just like an in inspection, go through and make sure that the home is exactly what it is that you want. So, which we already checked out the property, so I'm not going to go through all this again. So, yeah. And lastly, I would have to say that that was a good example of how you can just, do, and you can quickly analyze a property before you even purchase it by the numbers. You can see how much the excuse me, you can see how much that the homes are being rented for, or you can see, um, how much your ROI would be, or your cap. I want to pull that property up again. Sorry. All right. I forgot to show you, how to make sure that you would be even renting it enough. So you see, this is 1674. Where that on the first example where it gave $1,200. Oh, sorry. You see where this says 1674? on that first example of $1,200, you're already renting below. So that was just a kind of an exaggerated bad example, but it was still a bad example. Another thing is, where are you going to get a $200,000 house that one rents for 1,100 and the other one rents for 2,200? You know what I mean? Like, look at it's $1,000 gap between the rents between 1,100 and 20. I mean, $1,100 gap between that. So just, or I'm sorry, it was 1,200. It was 1,200 and 2,200. But yeah, anyways, it's like, okay, what home is worth renting out for 2,200 that I just got for 200,000? Where am I going to get that kind of a deal, basically? So, and another thing I want to say really quick is that's why a lot of people who rent don't do 30-year mortgages. When you get a 30-year mortgage, it's usually for a home buyer. I'm just making this video because a lot of people sometimes think they're first time home buyers, and they got a conventional, or they got pre-approved, and they got pre-qualified, and then they got all good to go, and then they got their loan estimate of how much they can buy, and they're good to go, and then they're not even looking for a house to move into or starter home or anything. They're looking for an investment property. And it's like, look at the numbers. You know what I mean? You have your mortgage every month. You have your bills every month. So are you sure you want to try to do this? You're going to make $120 a month. You might as well live in that property. So I just wanted to make that quick video. So turned out to be 17 minutes, but I got it done. So if you watch and follow me to the end, thank you very much. Regardless, if you didn't, I still hope that everybody has an amazing day.